Marrying well is one of the best things you could ever do for yourself. This is part 1 of a book we are reading this month called Relationship Goals by Michael Todd. And so kindly subscribe to the channel, smash the like button, and this month I'll be coming your way every week to come for us to discuss this book that talks about love, singleness, relationships, marriage, and many more. If I were to ask you to think about the relationship you want, with an idealized picture pop up in your mind? Maybe it's you with a tall, handsome man who is taking you on a shopping spree, or with you with a girl you know has all the things she wants in a lady physically, and you are there going out. Or it's you with a guy who is such a great listener, or somebody who earns so much that he can pay both of your bills. Or maybe it's you with a girl who cooks like your mother and is such like anytime your team scores, she's so excited with you. You have started imagining things, right? Well, the author says that is not all it is about relationships. Most of things that society has taught us, or the things we have dreamed and imagined in our heads, are not all that it is about relationship, and relationships are far more than this. And so sit with me as I go deeper on what the author discusses about having relationship goals. Well, the author of this book is actually a pastor and shares a story of how he grew up in church but never really heard anyone talk about a biblical model on how to have the right relationships. It's usually just rules and warnings that you know the things you're not supposed to do before you are married, you know the kind of friends you're not supposed to follow, but they don't teach you how to do it right. How do you have the right relationship? How do you have those relationship goals you have been dreaming and thinking and even seeing in the movies? And so as we speculate about relationship goals, sometimes you are being pressured to compare yourself or the things you want in a relationship with someone else. But know that we are different and we have different targets, different age, experiences, even where we live in shows different things, and we all want unique things in relationships. Never forget that don't compare what you want in a relationship with another. And so the first thing I want us to discuss is before the person. Before you meet the person, what are you supposed to do? He says, though now our focus is to have relationships with humans, right? But he thinks that to be able to have those kind of good relationships, then you have to go back to focusing on having a relationship with God. If you have a good relationship with God, then it will result in you having godly relationships with people or with a person. Godly relationships are about sacrificing for others, showing kindness, having integrity, forgiving one another, and all kinds of other tough stuff like that. And so it is from having a relationship with God that we'll be able to have this kind of virtues, to be able to have the right relationship with somebody. Some of us find it difficult to forgive. Some of us find it difficult to be kind, so many other things. But it is from God that He will teach and shape us on how to behave, how to forgive, how to be kind. And then you can now bring out that one to go and have a relationship with someone. One thing to also note is that God is a relationship giver. And let's go back to the creation. We see from the beginning, God says, let there be light, and there was light. And He said it was good. And He went about to command so many other things and kept saying it was cool. But at a point, He created man and said it is not good. So does that mean God messed up? Of course, God didn't mess anything up, but He knew that something was wrong. God said it is not good for man to be alone. And so this principle is true for Adam in that day, as it's true for me. It's not good for me to be alone. It's not good for you to be alone. We are supposed to have relationships with people. We are supposed to have relationships with people who can show us how to love, who can love us, who can show us how to even go about things. So relationships are good, relationships are important, relationships are needed. And so Ecclesiastes tells us that two are better off than one, for they can help each other succeed. If one person falls, the other can reach out and help, but someone who falls alone is in real trouble. Likewise, two people lying close together can keep each other warm, but how can one person be warm alone? A person standing alone can be attacked and defeated, but two can stand back to back and conquer. Now that we know that relationships are good and God encourages us to have relationships, now let's look at how to find the right person for the purpose. And we can best understand this by going back to the story of the Garden of Eden. God created Adam and Adam had a relationship with God. But beyond that, God gave Adam a job. He told him to name the animals, give names to the things he had created. And so God gave Adam work. He had work before he had a wife. And it's not just about me. He said that Rebecca was working in the field before she met Isaac. Ruth was working before she met Boaz. And so you need purpose before the person. And so he says that most people are usually so eager to find the person before they find the purpose. But it might just result to so many problems. You have to know who you are. You have to know what you are supposed to be doing before you find someone else. So before you find the person, find your purpose first. Now that is out of the way, let's look at romantic relationship progressions. And he comes up with something a bit controversial. He says that first you are single, you start dating, you get engaged, you get married, you laugh, and probably have children. Yeah, you heard that right. He says you can only laugh after you are married to the person. And so let me explain why he says you should laugh after marriage. He says that he has read 1 Corinthians 13. It's what we usually call the definition of love in the Bible, where he says love is kind, love is patient, love is not easily angered, love doesn't keep record of being wrong, love always trusts, love is always standing with the truth, all those kind of things. And he says that requires a lot of sacrifice. He says that you have to lay down your life like the way Christ laid down his life, to the church. And so if you decide to love somebody, if you decide that you want to love somebody, it's to an extent where you can give up your life for the person. And this is just mostly difficult in relationships before marriage. And so that is why he's saying that you marry the person and now you love the person. The next thing I want us to look at is the S word, singleness. And I know that most people are very eager to leave that singleness season, or to not be single again. Even we quote that God said it is not good for man to be alone. Yes, we as humans are supposed to be involved in relationships, healthy relationships. We need relationships to survive. But he says that Adam was first single before he met Eve. And so the singleness part of your life is actually such an important part where you are supposed to learn to develop yourself, to get to know who you are before you can even be involved with somebody in a relationship. And to be honest, society doesn't help with this. There's just so much pressure. There's a point where you get in life and it's just so many questions. Are you still single? Are you not married yet? You go for a wedding and come and they're like, yours is next, yours is that. And there's just so much pressure, either from your parents, from other people, colleagues. So many people are just putting so much pressure. And it's like the single part of your life is a curse or something. And so it makes people to get forced into getting into relationships or getting into some kinds of entanglements that they will later regret it in life, or it wouldn't have been their wish or what they would have wanted, but because of pressure from society. And so the author says that singleness is actually not a case. And from your single time or the period in which you are single, you get to know the good, the bad, and the ugly parts of yourself. You get to know the good things, like you love to travel, you love to give back to your community, so many other positive things. And the bad things are you might learn to know that you are an overspender, you like excessive attention, your fear of failure, so many other things. So your singleness part is the time you get to learn to know yourself, learn the right skills, become better. And when you live out of that stage into marriage, then you become actually a better person. Another thing he points out is that sometimes society thinks that if you are single, then you should be ready to mingle. But it shouldn't always be the case. You can be single and be under construction. So you are single, but you are rather working on yourself and building on yourself than just focus on single and waiting that somebody should come and pick me and marry me. No, you are single and under construction. Single and being better. Single and working on your attitude. Single and working on your character or behavior. And most people also mistaken the fact that when you are single, you are alone. No, you can be single and not be alone. If you are single and focus on doing so many other things in your life, you are not alone. Or if you are single, doesn't mean that you cannot have other relationships. You can have work relationships, you can develop friendships. And so you are single, but you are not alone. And so you want to be married, yeah? Well, he's saying that Many tend to view matrimony as a method of escape, but escaping your single life is not a reason to marry someone, even if he's tall and handsome with a killer smile. We must be careful not to be so drawn to the outward appearance that we neglect to recognize the inward condition. He says that many people rush into marriage because they think this person can help solve my loneliness problem. Maybe this person cannot. Maybe this person also has a loneliness problem and is expecting you to solve it. So what happens? So he says that if broken people hook up, they have a broken relationship and the relationship become more broken. Nobody is perfect, but we should all be progressing. The partners we choose often have their own problems and equally unrealistic expectations. They can't fix us any more than we can fix them. Only God can. You can evolve and change while you are in a relationship, and you should, but we should also realize that there are certain small things that we might not be able to change them, and it can be the things that will cause huge problems in our relationships. It might be a hygiene problem, and to think that always just eating and leaving dirty bowls inside the sink might be something that can compound. That little thing compound comes and become something very bad or something like a huge problem. And so we should focus on working on ourselves, especially if you are single. And so don't think that when you marry this person, he or she will be able to solve all your relationship problems. And so our single season is a time to invest, to imagine, and to inspire. Invest in the things that interest you. Imagine who you want to become and inspire. Do things that inspire you. I hope you have learned a thing or two from this. The book is very interesting, so I think you should also read it. Next week, I'll be bringing you part 2, and the subsequent week, I will be bringing you part 3 of the Relationship Goals book. Please subscribe to the channel, smash the like button, and send this to somebody who needs it. I'll see you later. Bye.